Now I want you to stop and think. How did you get where you are today? Now, I'm not talking mentally or spiritually, I'm talking physically. Did you walk? Did you ride your bike? Maybe you got a ride from a friend. Maybe you rode the bus. Now I want you to think, how do you get around each day? Do you have your own car? Or do you do those other things? Either way, I'd like to believe that you are helped to get around by one of these things. It's called a combustion engine. And although it comes in many different forms, we use them almost every day, and they're very fundamental to our society. And the sad thing is most of us don't know how they work. Now, why should you care how it works? Well, if we're going to use them every day, we should probably know how they work. And it helps us to build an appreciation for them. So today, I'm going to show you how an engine works, how it creates energy, the parts involved, and specifically the 4-stroke cycle. Now, before we get talking about the 4-stroke cycle, I wanted to talk about certain parts of the engine that I think are important. The first is the cylinder. This is where the engine creates its power. And it all starts with the piston, connected with the connecting rod. What the piston does is it moves up and down the cylinder, and this movement creates energy. The other parts come from the cylinder head. The first is the intake valve. What the intake valve does is it brings in the fuel, which then allows it to be used to create energy. The second is the exhaust valve. And after the reaction has taken place, this opens and it pushes out the exhaust. This is what comes out the back of your car when you drive. And the third is a spark plug. And like the name entitles, it provides a spark. Now, what controls all of this movement? It's called the timing belt system. And it involves a camshaft, which controls the movement of the exhaust and intake valves, opens them when they need to. And it includes the crankshaft, which moves the pistons up and down. And it's all kept in rhythm by the timing belt. I kind of like to think of this like the heart with a pulse, right? It needs that pulse to keep in rhythm. And if it doesn't, it gets out of shape and the heart stops. It's the same with the engine. That timing helps the engine keep in rhythm and keep to producing energy when we need it. Now, the 4-stroke cycle. You've probably heard this when people are talking about engines or cars in general. And you probably don't know what a stroke is. Well, what a stroke is any time that piston moves up and down. And so in this cycle, the piston moves up or down, up, down, up. 4 strokes. And this includes the first stroke, which is the intake. What happens is the piston is at the top of the cylinder. And in this step, it begins to move down. And as it moves down, the intake valve opens and pushes an air-fuel mixture into the cylinder. And then, once the cylinder reaches the bottom, it comes back up. And as it comes up, it compresses that air-gas mixture and compresses it and compresses it and compresses it until it almost gets to the top. And then the spark plug comes in, it provides a spark. And this is where the 3rd stroke comes in, called the power stroke. And because that is so compressed and it's so flammable and it's so pressurized, it creates an insane amount of energy, pushing that cylinder back down. And this is where all the power from the engine comes. In fact, it's the only stroke in the engine that produces power. And that's where the term power stroke comes from. And then in the 4th step, it pushes back up and lets out the exhaust. And this is how an engine works. Over and over. It does this cycle over and over, producing energy and getting us where we need to go. I hope during this time that you were able to learn more about engines and gain a greater appreciation for them. Because although we might forget about them, they are super important to our society and they profit us extremely. And you might even say that they drive our society. My name is Robbie Whitworth. This is my audience today. Keegan, show yourself. My roommate Keegan.